I'm here to introduce to you the speaker for Building the Optimal Marketing Organisation. Jeff McKay's teams and strategies have helped the world's top professional services firms achieve industry-leading growth rates, optimise marketing investment, and maximise brand value. Jeff has worked with exceptional teams as the Senior Vice President of Marketing at Genworth Financial, the Global Marketing Leader at Hewitt Associates, and in senior roles at Towers, Perrin and Anderson. And he can never forget his Karate Kid time selling spark plugs and software in the auto parts business. Jeff earned an MBA from St. Louis University and a BS in Marketing from Illinois State University. But the thing he's most proud of that he wanted me to share is that he has 3 children adopted from Guatemala. Please welcome Jeff.
I have led global teams, regional teams, local teams, and some of the world's top professional services. I have led industry, geography, corporate, brand, any number of functions you can imagine in a professional services. I have built high-performing marketing teams in great times. I've reduced them in bad times. And what I'm going to share with you today, it's going to make some of you very unhappy and uncomfortable. And you're going to hope that it was fake news. Some of you, however, and I suspect it may be a minority of you, are going to say, oh, Jeff, thank you for sharing that. I love you for sharing that. I wish my fill in the blank was here. I have been working in professional services firms for the last 20 years. And I get asked whether I'm starting a new role, being interviewed for a role, or coming in as a consultant, what type of marketing organization do we have? Most professional services firms know they need marketing, but they're never quite clear what they need. Such and such a role is hot. Do we need one of those? Do we need to be centralized? Do we need to be decentralized? Do we need to be organized by geography, industry, line of business? The questions just go on. And they're difficult questions to answer. And the reason they're difficult to answer is what I call the BS of PS. That would be the bullshit of professional services. Professional services firms, by their very nature, are just dysfunctional. And there are lots of roadblocks to growth in them. Nobody wants to address those roadblocks. So what you get is stuff like this. You get the CRM merry-go-round. How many people in here have implemented CRM? How many have implemented more than one? How many have implemented more than 2? Because it's never the partner's problem, it's the technology's problem, right? How many of you were hired because the person before you was too strategic and couldn't get anything done? Or how many of you were too tactical and you were layered by somebody that was more strategic? How many times have you seen your firm rebrand when things got slow, or a competitor rebrand in order to rebrand back? This type of activity goes on in every firm across the globe, and it is the biggest waste of time and money in trying to achieve what firms are actually trying to achieve. So you say, well, what are they trying to achieve? Well, it all depends who you ask. Every year, there's some survey. What's your big issue? AICPA. Here are CPA firms' top issues. From a marketer's perspective, HubSpot's. Here's our biggest issues as marketers. And I love this one. High growth study. If you want to grow, you better hire that videographer today. Because high growth firms are out there video blogging. They're fads. They chase from place to place. Salesforce. If you're on the Salesforce side, the sales side, what's the biggest issue you have in your firm right now? Technology Service Industry Association. Where are you getting your information from? And that information drives growth, right? They say you better be investing in marketing and customer service. But, yes, Harvard Business Review, what they think, it's just direct interaction with the provider and references. Which one do you choose? They're all just Rorschach tests, but we depend on them so much for the answer, right? But most of these studies, they're just veiled marketing brochures that support whatever the provider's core business is, right? You know, of course, you're going to need a new, more strategic website from a website designer, right? That's what it's going to say. So what does this mean? What it means is this. You have to stop thinking that if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck. It's not. Every firm is unique. I don't care if you are a regional accounting firm in the Midwest with the same number of partners and the same fill in the blank. Every firm is different. Every firm has a different culture. Every firm has different strategic objectives. They have different levels of investment capability. And just because you come to a session like this or read one of those reports does not mean that your marketing organization needs to be like anyone else's. So today, we're going to answer the question, what is the optimal marketing organization for you? You. And it's going to be unique for each one of you. What we're not going to cover, and I'm going to give you an opportunity right now, if you want, I won't be upset, if you walk out the door and go to another session, because you expected to have a magic answer for this, or that there's somehow some magic bullet marketing stack that makes this very easy. What we're going to answer in here today is going to help you sort through all this noise with a lot of ease, because you'll have clarity about what you're ultimately trying to achieve. And we're not going to talk anything about how much you need to spend. I don't care how much you need to spend or how much partners are giving you. You're going to be able to develop an organization that is going to work for your firm no matter what amount of money you're going to invest in it. And I'm going to talk about how we can get that done. So, you cannot build a marketing organization until you know what it is you're trying to achieve. When these partners ask me these questions about where should we invest in marketing, I always ask back, well, what is it you want marketing to do? What do you think the number one answer is? Oh, Sell? Bring in more business? Anyone else? Build awareness. Got to make that phone ring. Nobody knows who we are when we call. How many people have heard that? Right? You cannot do anything until you answer 5 big questions. And we're going to answer those 5 big questions today. In a nebulous grow or build awareness, that's not a marketing objective. That's so nebulous. You'll never succeed at that, whatever that is. That, to me, just illustrates the ignorance of growth and what it takes to drive growth. Like was it a guy? I can't remember who said it in there. We need to help people understand what it really takes. And what I'm going to give you is going to equip you to have a more strategic and focused conversation with your firm leadership. Okay? After I finish each question, I'm going to give you some action items to take place. Oh, and by the way, don't worry about getting notes down for this. When I'm done, I'll give you a URL you can go to, and you can download whatever you want and whatever you feel you need. Because I'm going to give you tools. You can download the tools. I'm going to give you the action items, and some of this presentation will be up there as well. Okay? So just go ahead and listen. You can write if you want, but you don't have to. Okay? So, question number 1. Where exactly is our firm strategically going? Most firms pride themselves on having some kind of strategic planning process, and they throw out words about big, hairy, audacious goals and adjacencies and all these buzzwords, right? And that's great. There's something to be said about bringing partners together and having them talk about it. But because of the BS of PS, they seldom make any decisions, right? And if they do, then they leave and they go do their own thing. You need to make sure that you're answering 3 questions so that you know exactly where the firm is going. Grow everything is not a strategy, right? And if you can't make decisions, it defaults to grow everything, and you and marketers know that because you have lob leaders and partners coming, do some of this, do some of that, and they just pile on, and you just become discombobulated. If you do not answer the question of we are here at point A, and we are going to point B, and this is how we're going to get there, you're going to default to grow everything, and you're not going to be successful. You will continue to sub-optimize your marketing investment, your business development investment. Anything that you're putting into growth will be suboptimal without clarifying these 3 questions. The first one, and I will give a prize to anybody who can articulate the top 3 priorities of their firm clearly and succinctly right now. What markets are we going after? Are we pursuing cross-sell, new logos, which markets, which industries, who is our ideal client, and why? What products, what services have priority? So when 2 lines of business come to you and say, oh, I want to do this or I want to do that, and you say, I'm sorry, our priority is this, we can't do that, you're growing everything. You haven't prioritized. Okay? 2, When a firm says this is our priority, and here's a common one that you'll hear. How many people have heard this? We need to move upstream and sell bigger projects to bigger firms. Yes? No? Okay. We need to be in the C-suite. How many people have heard that? Got to be in the C-suite. Ask them, who in this firm is going to be having those C-suite conversations? Right? 9 times out of 10, no, 99 out of 100, you don't even have somebody that can talk to somebody in the C-suite. And if you do, what are you going to talk to them about? You may not have a capability or a point of view that is relevant to the C-suite. So you cannot market air. So many people in here market air and platitudes because you don't have the demonstrated point of view and proof points to actually drive the growth that you're looking for. You're focused on brand awareness. Get the name out there. People don't know who we are. Brand awareness is one of the worst marketing terms I think ever invented. Awareness is not what you want to go for. Relevance is what you want. You want to be relevant in the space you want to grow. How many people in here are afraid of McKinsey coming into your geography and stealing your accounting clients? Why not? They're not relevant, right? They're not an accounting firm. What are they? It's a different type of firm. McDonald's. Incredible geographic presence. Most operationally effective organization on the planet, maybe next to Walmart. And incredible marketers. How many of you women in here would buy a black dress from McDonald's? How many people would buy a bottle of scotch from them? An electric car? Now, given those core competencies that McDonald's have, do you think they could sell a dress, scotch, or a car? They could. But how much time and money is it going to take for them to be relevant in that market? That's something that's very important to understand, point A to point B. What's it going to take to get there? Because that's going to dictate the type of organization you're going to need in order to move the ball. Otherwise, there's no point in spending the money. You're just going to waste it. So, that's question number 1. So, define exactly where your firm is headed, who's leading it, and how will you know when you get there? How many people want to go have that conversation with their managing partner right now? Nobody? Nobody? Come on. Come on, somebody be brave and say, I'll go have that conversation. Nobody wants to have a conversation. Am I wrong? Okay. It's a hard conversation to have. And we're going to talk about what it takes to have that conversation. If you could even have it. If you could even have it. Okay? So, you don't even need a tool for that. You just need to knock on the door and walk in there. But here's the thing that you need to do in order to make sure that you've done this right. You can't ask one person. You have to ask all the leadership team and people down, and you have to look for consensus across it. Because one person's opinion does not make a plan. What you want to see is consistency across all of those. Okay? All right. So, how do we expect marketing to help us achieve our strategic vision? We've already answered the question, right? Grow, bring in new business, build awareness. Maybe not. Maybe not. People may say that, but they may not mean it. After 20 years in this business, I've come to the conclusion that there are 2 schools of marketing thought in professional services. And the one you've chosen is giving you the results that you're achieving right now. The first one is the productivity school. And a productivity school is based around the concept that it makes more sense for somebody whose loaded cost is $60 an hour do the work so that somebody that bills out for $300, $400, $500 an hour doesn't have to do it. The job is to keep utilization high. And how many times have we heard about, the billable hour already here? This is a model built around the billable hour. The second one is what I call the growth school. It is about strategic impact, about making a difference strategically in the firm. Strategically. Here's the difference between these organizations. The productivity, maximize utilization. That's all you're there for. Growth, maximize profitable growth. How many firms do you think say to marketing, go maximize profitable growth? How many? 1 out of 100? 2 out of 100? 5 out of 100? Has anybody ever said to you, go maximize profitable growth? No. It's not the language. Because the mindset in a productivity school, marketing's a cost center. You got to keep costs down. You have to fight for every dollar. You can't add ahead. How many of you left colleagues back in your firm because your firm was only committed to send one of you, maybe 2 of you, to this event? Right? That's because you're a cost. They want to keep the cost down. Oh, we'll send one. That'll kind of placate marketing. Instead of saying, whoa, if they're going there, they're going to get new ideas that are going to generate revenue. That's the way a growth school thinks. The third, the objectives of the productivity school: consulting, productivity, brand awareness, right? Get me on the cover of this newspaper or that newspaper, Give me some media coverage. Growth School is not thinking that way. They're thinking in terms of revenue growth, client loyalty, and innovation. Growth schools are already past the blockchain question and where they're going that Guy talked about earlier today. They saw that coming years ago. That's not something they're learning today, and they're already building their models differently to go after them. The approach, the productivity, maintain a consistent brand. Oh my gosh. I was one of the leaders of brand at Anderson, and I had that role when I was younger in my career. And oh my God, I thought I was really doing something when I had the right Pantone color and the right tagline and all that. Oh my gosh, what a joke. What a joke. But we get fixated on that stuff. You use the wrong font. You didn't use the right template. Blah, blah. It's silly stuff. And this is how you know you're in a productivity school. If a partner gives you something and says, make it pretty, you're in a productivity school. I'm sorry. But they want you to make it pretty. The skills in productivity, it's about design and communication. It's fashion, right? It's fashion. Let's do a rebrand, make it fresh. The skills in growth, strategy, leadership, operations, organizational effectiveness. You're thinking about things that aren't traditional Marcom. You're talking about things with impact. And then finally, and we'll talk about this on the fifth question, is how are you measuring what you're doing? In a productivity school, it's all about activity. How many events did you hold? How many white papers did you write? How many impressions did you get? How many followers did you get? Growth School doesn't look at that stuff primarily. Sure, they're kind of telltale signs. They're precursors to the more advanced stuff. but they're looking at strategic impact stuff. And I'll give you some metrics around that a little bit later. Okay, so how many people, and it's okay, are in the productivity school? Okay, how many people are in the growth school? Okay, how many people did not want to raise their hands because they either didn't know or were ashamed to say? It's okay. I've been where you are. I know that uncomfortable feeling, and it's not fun. I get it. But there is hope. All right. So the third question, we know where we're going, point A to point B. We know what school we belong to, so we know our role in achieving that objective, or should. What's really bad is when you're in a productivity school, but you get some nebulous goal like growth. That is a no-win situation. And do not enter into that. You got to break out of that. But if you know where you're going, well, what kind of capabilities is it going to take to get there? And I think many firms get lost in this area. Well, who do I need? And they normally define it in some kind of nebulous fad or something. You know, we need a social media person, or we need a videographer or something like that. I'd like to give you a different way of thinking about it. All right. So if you know where you're going and you know what your role is getting in there, you're going to have some priority. You are either going to allocate your marketing investments in demand gen, lead gen, sales, or R&D based upon 3 criteria. How aware of the market is the issue, does the market have, of the issue that your firm is capable of selling? 2, how relevant is your brand in that space? Do people recognize you as the leader already? And how big a growth opportunity is it for your firm? You're going to have to choose 1 or 2 of these. 4 is not prioritized. It's just you cannot, and particularly many of you. How many people in here have a team of 1 person? How many have a team of 2 people? Okay, 3. All right. Any one of you who is doing all of those 4 things in your firm effectively right now and knocking it out of the park by having higher than industry average growth, anybody can rise at industry average, but to outperform your peers, see me after this, I have jobs for you. Okay? Because that is phenomenal performance if you're doing all 4 of those with 1, 2, or 3 people for a firm with multiple service lines. All right? So if you're in number 1 in demand gen, your job is to set the tone for the market. How many regional firms set the tone for a county market? Anybody? How many? 10, 15, 20? 0? Who sets the tone in the accounting market? Yes, but in terms of competitors? The Big Four, right? And even in the Big Four, maybe there's 1 or 2 that may set the market around a given topic. Not too many regional firms are setting that tone. It's not to say that you can't, but you've got to get focused. You have to find your white space, and it will be, if you're a growth school firm, you will be doing that. But the types of skills you need are strategy, research, technical writing, big thinker type of stuff. And you may say, oh, our partners do that. No. They'll get to it, but the best marketers, bring that out. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a second. Lead gen, you got a strong brand. The market is aware of their issue. You don't have to convince them that they have an issue. And there's a growth opportunity. Lead gen. Just convince people that you're the best person to solve that issue for them. Third, sales. People know they have the issue. It's not really important to them. You have a strong brand, but there's not a big growth opportunity. That sound like any of your services? Don't invest anything in marketing. Tell your partners, pick up the phone and ask for the business. Just say, hey, I want you to know this is coming down. We're your firm. We're going to take care of it. We're coming out. Here's the scope of work. Boom, over, done. Don't let your competitors, like Jeff said today, that R&D tax credit or whatever it was I came in and just said, don't let anybody do that. That doesn't cost anything for your partners to do. Get them to do it. Don't invest any of your time or money in that. CRM, sales support, those type of things, that's a dime a dozen. It really is. And with the systems and the technology we have today, the productivity gains that are just baked into the software, that's a bot, a bot replacement right there. Okay? And then the fourth one, R&D. If you have a service that has no relevance and the market's not growing, there's not a big demand, or it's growing but you can't get relevant in it, get out of it and reallocate it. Just reallocate it towards something else. That means being innovative, understanding your client's needs, and moving to that next level. And we've heard several presentations about that already. So how many people in here are thinking, I need all of that? Nobody's thinking? I need all of that, right? If that's the case, then you need lots of money, right? You need lots of money because there's no way you're going to do all of that without lots of bodies. If the firm sends you on that mission without it, that's the mission you're on. It seems fun. Oh, I'm so important. Bam, you're not going to succeed. All right? Okay, so once you decide what school you're in and where you need to focus, that is going to dictate what type of leadership your organization is going to need. It's going to dictate if you're a partner, a managing partner, how you're going to start at the top. If you're already the leader, it's going to tell you who you need to be in order to succeed in the firm that you're playing in. So, if you are in a productivity school, I have 3 letters that describe the leadership role of marketing in your firm. Get shit done. You have to keep the trains running on time. That's what's expected of you. This person, the GSD leader, never says no, always gets the job done no matter what's asked of him or her. I'll get it done. I'll get it done. This person is superhuman. I admire this person. I could never be a GSD person at that level because it's just all over the place. If you are going to be a growth school leader, you need to change the conditions inside your firm. You just say, this is no longer acceptable to me. This is how we're going to do it. You're going to be a martyr, probably. If you can convince partners at all, and if you're in a productivity school, you're probably not going to change it to a growth school. But the expectation for a growth school leader is I don't care that that's the way it operates. What's going to drive growth and serve our clients' needs the best is this. And they have the savvy in order to get that done. Would anybody think that Mother Teresa is out there, banging heads, slitting throats, and killing people on the battlefield? No. Just constant pressure of doing little things right in the best way aligned with the growth school. Okay? So if you have that leader, who are they going to lead? Here are the roles you need on your team. If you're a GSD type of leader in a productivity school and you're a small firm, you're probably going to be something like this. You're going to be a generalist. You're going to be coordinating everything, and you're just going to be allocating stuff to get it done, right? You're the train operator if you're a small firm. Just get it done. Efficiency. If you're in a larger firm, very similar, but you may have some practice, industry, or geography, however your P&L is driven. Every firm has some prioritization of a P&L that drives everything else. Same thing, traditional types of roles based on which one of those 4 quadrants you're going to be in. Now, if you're in a growth school, you think a little bit differently. I don't know how many times I've been asked the question about titles. Titles in firms are really important because there's a hierarchy, right? And marketers like to see a progression. Coordinator, manager, director, VP, CMO, or some language like that. I think that language is obsolete, particularly inside the firm. Externally, yeah, I get it, but inside the firm, it's the kiss of death. Because the partner doesn't want to talk to a coordinator, or doesn't want to talk to a manager. I don't want to talk to somebody at a certain level. I'd like you to think in terms of roles. And these are roles that are so important to a growth marketing organization. It's not an individual in each place, and these are not partners in these roles. Partners will tell you that they are fulfilling these roles, but they're not. They don't have the knowledge, they don't have the time, and more importantly, they're not rewarded for filling those roles. So the first one is the strategist. This is the person that has their finger on the pulse of the market, the client needs, the competition, where are we going, what needs to be done. They're driving the new thinking in the firm because they're business people. They don't define themselves as marketers. They define themselves as business people. And if you want to be a growth marketer, you have to stop talking to yourself as a marketer or as a communicator or anything like that. You are a business person first. And the strategist fills that role. The futurist. This is the person, they annoy the hell out of me because they're so brilliant. They just consume so much information and they synthesize it and they see the possibilities that exist in the world. They're already past blockchain and its applications and on to the next thing. It's a fun role. It's a hard role, but it's a role that you need on your team. These people are annoyingly brilliant, and they need time to think. And as we've heard already, the billable hour kills time to think. But you need the futurist too. The idealist. I was an idealist for a while. I hope I still have a little of that. This is the person who's a little naive, and when partners are pursuing growth for the sake of growth and becoming a partner, and they become less than their better selves, this person calls us back to the best version of ourselves, to our higher ideals. When people say, oh, that's silly, they actually believe it, and we need people on our team that do that. The quant, this is a critical role, and it's a critical role because it enables all the other roles. And this is not just look at social media analytics. This is about understanding everything that's driving performance. What's working in the market, what's not working in the market, operational efficiency, cost per lead. I mean, it's anything that is going to improve our strategic impact. This person works with everyone and enables their roles. The enforcer. The enforcer is the person that says to a partner, sit down and shut up, metaphorically speaking. Metaphorically speaking. What this person really does is builds the business case and says, this is why. There's a better way of doing this, and this is how we're going to do it. This is the person that says, I'm not an order taker anymore, because order taking doesn't serve our firm. Something better serves our firm. Probably chose the wrong picture for that one. And then the creative. Do not confuse this with a designer. Although they may have design skills, the creative makes complex things understandable. They shift the paradigm. We are communicating intangible ideas to a market that is just inundated with messages. And you need someone that can make that understandable. These people are so hard to find. Space and color and fonts and stuff like that. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about interpretation, translation from one brain to a multitude. And this is a very valuable role in a modern marketing organization. So, question number 3. Okay. Question number 3. You have to decide what type of leader you're going to be or you need. Determine marketing's roles required. You're probably not going to get all 7 or 8 of those. I can't remember. And you got to combine it with where your lines of business fall in that growth map. You know, quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4. Right? So, if you know where you're going, you know your role, you know what skills you have, you got to decide, well, what do I have to work with now, and what's it going to take to get there? So, what's the gap? You need to do some kind of gap assessment based across these skills and capabilities. There's one here that you can download to use. Very simple, very straightforward, but you need to identify the gaps that exist on your team. And you either need to help your team build those, or you need to replace them and add them to the team. If you do it internally, and you have a team of a certain size, what I encourage you to do is do a self-evaluation and be honest with yourself. Have your manager evaluate you, and there will be a difference between how you perceive yourself and your manager perceives you. And then just for fun, throw in a partner or your line person as well. And if you're in a productivity school, they're going to measure your skill by your responsiveness, and you're making it pretty and that type of stuff. See through that. But you have to kind of ground it around several dimensions. So that will be out on this website where you can get this as well. So you have to do that. It's not fun, but you'll be amazed at what you'll learn from going through that. And then finally, I said I was going to talk about this, but this one is really important, because if you want to fundamentally change how your organization works and you want to gravitate from a productivity school to a growth school, you can stay in productivity school. Let me take a step back. There's nothing wrong with productivity school. Okay? It's not my preference, but there's nothing wrong with it. McKinsey is a productivity school firm. Accenture is a growth school firm. So that'll kind of ground you in them, and I'm happy to talk more about that offline. But here's how you should start thinking about how you're measuring the effectiveness of your marketing and growth activity. Productivity School is measuring production and activity, and it looks at these types of metrics in the lower left. They're measuring production. It is about how much did we get out. The growth school is about how effective was the stuff we got out. And it was effective in terms of how it impacted the strategic priorities we set back in question 1. If we were supposed to gain market share, then we're measuring market share. If it was supposed to be measuring brand relevance, then we're measuring brand relevance. Or net promoter. And if you have those measures, you need to make sure that you're controlling the levers that impact them. You cannot be held accountable for a net promoter score when you don't have impact over service delivery, right? So you have to be able to align what you can do with what you can produce. And then in between, there's a number of different metrics that are there. Let me be very clear. This is not a maturity cycle. You are not moving from here to here based on how mature your marketing organization is. You're moving from here to here based on the school of thought that your firm has about the expectations for you. So tomorrow, you could jump from here to there, or you could take a decade and never get there, no matter how mature your marketing organization is.
Is the productivity school always bad?
No. No, not at all. Not at all.
Why isn't it always? Seems like it is to me.
Yeah, that's a good question. My wife has taught me to bite my tongue. So I did that. There's nothing wrong with the productivity school. Like I said, McKinsey is a productivity school place.
But I don't understand what that means.
All right. So the partners in a consulting firm, not an accounting firm or architectural firm, have more core competency around the business strategy and how to go to market, right? So they actually fill that role. Most other firms lack that core competency. They tell themselves they do. But McKinsey that works for them and their culture and their firm, right? They are highly rewarded for producing thought leadership. You don't become a partner at McKinsey unless you've contributed intellectual capital, not just some white paper, but something that's driving revenue as a result. But they kick all that stuff out to India and just have it branded and typed up and back. And then, the McKinsey Quarterly just evolved. They were there early and, they have that channel. But outside of that, all they do is business relationships with, their Harvard alum friends. So, but there's nothing wrong with productivity school. What's wrong with it is when you want to be a growth marketer, but you're in a productivity school, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be happy. And you're never going to achieve what you're asked. It's that disconnect. Okay? All right. So you need to determine what performance measures you're going to use. This metric map, I saw some of you taking pictures of it. It'll be out there as well. Okay? So to wrap up, if you want to build the optimal marketing organization for your firm, for your culture, your strategic objectives, your level of investment, including the marketing stack and the type of roles you need, and the integration with the line and the integration with business development and every other dimension, you need to know exactly where your firm's going strategically, and you got to nail that down. Don't pretend you know it and go execute. And you have to have consensus around it. 2, you have to know which school you're in, whether you like it or not, because you'll have misalignment around what you're going to do. And then once you have that, you need to look at what capabilities you need in order to address those strategic objectives in one of those 4 quadrants. You cannot do all 4. If you think you are doing all 4, you're delusional. You just cannot with the limited resources every firm has. You can do a little, but you got to put big investment in 1 or 2 of those quadrants and do it very well. And then you need to assess the capabilities that you have, and that tool will help you understand where you have them, where you don't, where you can build them. And then finally, and this is really important, is you have to pursue performance